Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks. My name is Sim. Along with me is my co-host, Sheikh Hammer.
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Make sure you click on like, subscribe, and all the good stuff. Help us out on patreon.com/the Mad Mamluks. We have an exciting show for you tonight. A gentleman that some of you, or many of you, should be familiar with. Brother Younus Anthony, who shared his own revert story with us. How many months ago was that?
That's been
Almost
a year. It's been about 9 months, yeah. It was March 10th of this year, right before Ramadan.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Yes, sir.
So Younus came into town for the ICNA convention, the Mass ICNA convention out in Chicago. So one of those mega conferences that happens annually in the United States, where an incredibly large building.
If you all know McCormick Place is, I think it's bigger than Rosemont when they had a Rosemont. It's much bigger than Rosemont, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's supposed to be huge, and a lot of people are coming in today, tomorrow, throughout the week. So we're going to be having some interesting guests and stuff throughout the next few days, and we're going to kick it off with Younus and his son. Welcome, Julian.
Yes, sir.
Julian,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Assange is here.
MashaAllah. Yeah, we were just talking about the whole UFC thing, so
Yeah.
the conversation was getting deep.
It was getting pretty deep. That's why, inshallah, when he's in town, bring him through and we can watch one together, inshallah.
Yeah.
So it's obviously becoming like I said, a regular incursion up here. I guess it's going to be an annual thing.
It's
or
gonna be
more
our
for me.
second home, Chicago.
Inshallah. I mean, yeah, man.
How was the holidays for you, Younus?
Well, I was holidays.
Christmas specifically.
I didn't do anything.
Have some sensitivity,
Okay,
sir.
all right. I'll say Christmas. Okay.
I haven't celebrated Christmas in quite a long time, but anyways, I was in Mass was having their regional conference in Houston, so I was attending that, and then really just had 2 days off, if you want to call them 2 days off, and then I flew me and my son up here for the Mass ICNA thing, so we could continue to promote the wonderful service that we're trying to give to the community.
Let us know what's up. Tell us a little bit about that. Why are you at Mass ICNA?
So we're just we're hoping that the Houston, alhamdulillah, was very good for us, but we're really hoping that Chicago really pops off. And like I said earlier, is that when me and Julian were going through the bazaar hall, or whatever you want to say it was, it's massive. So I'm hoping that, aren't they expecting like 50,000 or 50 something like that, 50,000?
I think anywhere from 30 to 50. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
huge
gonna be a
numbers.
good showing.
It's gonna be huge. So, we did some changes. We did some rebranding in a way.
All right. For the listeners who don't know what you do, just
Okay.
briefly
Yeah,
tell them.
inshallah,
If
of
you
course.
can bring the microphone a little closer.
Oh, of course. I don't want to be too loud.
No.
So just to kind of recap last time, is that the service that I offer is we do Islamic arbitration and mediation. And so we're trying to provide an alternative for the Muslim community, not just in Texas, but nationally, because alhamdulillah, we've handled a couple cases in Chicago. We actually have another Chicago mediation that's coming up next month, inshallah. So we've actually started, so we rebranded, so we're not TLR ADR anymore. It's IAMS, Islamic Arbitration and Mediation Services. So we're doing a DBA now, doing business as. So we did a little bit of rebranding to make it easier for the community, and alhamdulillah, it's worked out. But like I said, we're trying to bring an alternative to the Muslim community nationally to have their disputes handled, whether it's marital relations, divorce, etc., business disputes, organizational disputes. We also offer Islamic prenuptial and postnuptial agreements, Islamic divorce documents, religious consultation for legal and business professionals. And for those who don't want to hire an attorney, just want to have their divorce done pro se, we offer what is called in the legal profession ghostwriting. So clerical services, where we kind of serve as their paralegal through the whole process and get the whole thing done with them in a fraction what they would pay for an attorney, and in the least amount, in a short amount of time that they would do if they had hired an attorney to begin with. So we're just trying to provide an alternative and not have to all of a sudden, Muslims by default go and take everything up to court and have a long drawn out ordeal, and then nobody's satisfied with the outcome because it's not being done in a way that our deen, dictates.
Arbitration services. So what, I know we probably talked about this a little bit in the last episode, but almost a recap and moving forward. What are the types of cases that are that you see the most?
Right now, Sheikh, it's divorces predominantly, and everybody asks me why that's the case, and they think this is a bad thing. I was like,
I think it's Israel and Palestine. It has to be.
That's causing the divorces.
I'm sure there's some couples out there that, if the
polar opposite ends.
If your lady's supporting Israel,
they're torn.
Done with you.
But yeah, so divorce. But like, what is it? What's
so
the method?
The madness. What we're seeing is that there hasn't been an alternative to the community already. So that just tends to be the flux of the matters. That it's, I can't explain it any way else. Is that there hasn't been an alternative for the community previously. So now we're just getting a massive amounts of influx of them. And again, it has to do with people not understanding how marriage works. And again, we have this very taboo understanding of divorce, in the Muslim community. And then, unfortunately, people just not, to be honest with you, just not getting along, ready to go their separate ways kind of thing. So we're just trying to make that as least painful as possible.
And less drawn out. I like that, the part of not drawn out with lawyers and attorneys, and because it can be very drawn out.
Well, sometimes, like I said, sometimes lawyers have to be involved. I do unfortunately have a bias against lawyers, considering that I went to law school myself. But the more I'm starting to say, I'm not saying that all lawyers are bad. I'm saying that there are some good lawyers out there, but I'm starting to understand that most lawyers are. Forgive me, but
no, there's a game. There's a game that has to be played.
Yeah, there's a game. Exactly, there's a game that's being played, and it's about which one can get the most. Who wins, and it's about who can get the most money. So that's usually how it is. I remember there was when me and Imam Nadim were discussing this before, is that there was actually a couple that had gone through a divorce and they hadn't known about us yet, and they ended up spending combined over $500,000 in attorney's fees. Then they'll never see that money back again. I mean, they almost depleted the entire marital estate. And then after the court made the decision, they just walked away bitter. They did not get anything they want. So that was just, it's just, they didn't get anything they wanted, and the court was completely against what either was wanting to achieve. So, I mean, that's why we're trying to have them come up with some kind of agreement at the most part on their own if they can. And if they opt for arbitration, we can do that as well, where we'll apply a ruling to their matter if need be. And we recently alhamdulillah, had our first arbitration. Inshallah, there'll be more. We had to deal with the post-divorce issue. And it was not, there was some legalese to it, but for the most part, it was completely from an Islamic point of view. And so we were able to, after we had serious deliberation over the matter, we consulted one of our consultants, and he agreed with our conclusion as well, and that's how we went with it. So alhamdulillah, it worked out, and the parties were satisfied with the outcome. So that worked out. So alhamdulillah, we got that under our belt. And again, we've moved outside of Texas. We've now handled cases in the Chicago area, North Carolina. I got a couple of cases coming out of California now. We had a phone call from Oregon one time, Minnesota. I mean, people are reaching out to us from all over the country.
And you're
now.
Based out of Texas, though.
Yes, and we're based out of Dallas, Texas. We actually had and inshallah ta'ala, we're hoping to break into Canada too, but we had our first premarital counseling session with a couple out of Canada. And these people are finding us just by Googling us now. So
sorry, I don't know if you had something to ask, but premarital, so how does that work? You guys also offer services like premarital counseling and stuff too?
Yes, we do. Now my business partner, Imam Nadim Bashir, who is the Imam of Epic Masjid in North Texas in the Plano area, East Plano Islamic Center. He handles that part of the business, is the premarital counseling. So we just don't want to focus on just divorces. We try to kind of cast a wide umbrella that we're able to help people with their issues, whether it's before marriage, during marriage, or in the result after marriage.
And I just want to be clear, it just happens to be marriage is a big part of what you do in arbitration work, but it's arbitration on many levels too.
Yes.
Like you said, Muslim companies, between companies, business to business type. That's beautiful. Based on, like, I'm very curious. I know I'm going to see the booth this weekend, inshallah.
Sure.
But obviously, every conference you go to, you're going to make small adjustments here and there. But what is, number one, where can people find the booth? What number is it? And number two, what should people expect when they come to the booth?
Well, inshallah, we are located at L17. I don't know if that matters on the map, but we're not too far. We're not too far from the main entrance. So alhamdulillah, we're gonna, a lot of traffic will be coming our way, and what they're gonna see is it's very eye popping and eye catching. I can send Sim what I've taken a picture of the one we had in Houston.
Yeah.
But I think, and I'm sure Julian will agree, is that I think it catches people's attention. What do we do? What are we about? Because to be honest with you, even though there may be some organizations or small groups that may do something like this in certain parts of the country, no one does exactly what we do. And I think we've talked about this in our last episode. The whole purpose is to make sure that whatever we conclude or whatever we settle or whatever we rule upon will stick legally as well. So we want to make sure kind of like our slogan is we have a unique approach to resolving people's disputes, which is one, in accordance with Islamic principles, and two, making sure it's in compliance with state law, whatever state that might be in.
And you're going to be at the booth the whole time, or you guys are switching off?
I will be.
We'll both be at the
booth. We'll both be at the booth.
Julian, yeah, so you don't mind me asking you a question now, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's cool to introduce you here.
Yeah.
What exactly is... what are you going to be doing at the convention with the booth?
I'm just going to be there really just helping him with anything. He's going to be obviously the conversation starter. So he'll be the one informing people about, what he got going on. I'll just be there, passing out flyers,
nice.
Whatever. Yeah.
Nice. No, that's good. I like how you brought him under your wing too, and just to get, in the experience and acclimated with the people. That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, I wanted to get him, definitely get him a little bit more absorbed in the community and everything.
No, it's and having your children with too, man. It's so rewarding.
And alhamdulillah, like the previous podcast, we talked about how my son was getting close to coming into Islam. Alhamdulillah, he took his shahada. I took his shahada from 5 months ago.
Yeah, if you don't mind, can you talk about that?
Are you okay? Or are you...
Yeah. I took my shahada like 6 months ago. I was on a phone call, FaceTime with my dad and two of my stepbrothers.
First of all, why did it take so long?
Honestly, no. Good question.
That should be coming very quickly when your dad's Muslim, right?
No, yeah.
Just joking.
No, but
I'm joking.
Don't take him seriously. I'm so sorry.
No, that's good. No, it took a while just because I was on the fence with a lot of stuff. Growing up.
What was the number one question? Let's answer it.
My number one question of Islam.
Yeah. What was really stopping you?
Well, it's honestly that. What was really stopping me is that there were so many religions. How could I know which one's the truth? There's so many out there. How could I know this one's the truth? You get me?
Yeah.
But it took me a while. But I honestly feel like I've read stuff about Buddhism, stuff about Christianity, and I always felt like Islam stick with me the most. Like it made the most sense. Like it felt like I didn't have to force myself to believe it.
Yeah.
Like it kind of all fell into place.
The fitra. We call it the fitra, the human nature. It's it's a part of your natural instinct type thing.
Yeah. When you say there's a lot of religions there, it's a funny thing because you hear it a lot from atheists actually, and when you narrow it down to monotheistic religions, there's really 3 or 4.
3 or 4.
There's one outlier,
Sikhism.
I think Sikhism, yeah. But yeah, at least Judaism, Islam, and Christianity are the 3 monotheistic faiths. And once you narrow down from a logical point of view, at least using your reason that God has to be one, then you kind of narrow down to, okay, well, which among these monotheistic religions is the right one?
Still remaining, yeah. And it's beautiful. I'm pretty sure you came across this too. Is that that's why we refer to the Quran as the final testament, right? Because we're not negating Christianity and Judaism at all. We're actually saying that those were once religions sent down by Allah, but every time something changed or corrupted, a new message has to be sent, and that's why the finality of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by which Allah sent him with the Quran, is basically it makes it easier if you look at all 3 of them as a part of one puzzle, and which one came first, second, and how those kind of got corrupted, and why there needs to be a completion, which is the last, right? But and you're approximately 25 years old, right? I don't want to give lots of details. It's first time on, privacy protections. But yeah. So what was that like? I know you kind of got into the journey, but I know it's a very general question. But what was that like? What was the process kind of like?
It was really just me finally just accepting Islam and knowing that there's really no other truths to look for, and so that's why I just said my shahada and just let it be sealed deal. You know what I'm
Mashallah.
saying? Yeah.
Good for you, man.
What primarily attracted you though? I mean, there's a lot of
I mean, ever since I was young, my dad always, was Muslim, and he gave me his reasonings on why he became Muslim. It was just more or less like me being younger and my mom putting stuff in my head about other, religions, or like stuff about Islam, negative stuff, So like it would mess with me when I was younger. So that's why, growing up, I like wasn't completely, Muslim, but
if you don't mind,
always knew
like
about
what
it.
kind of negative stuff? Is it like terrorism? Or
Yeah, like my mom is like all the way like oh, they're terrorists. Like your dad turned to a terrorist. He didn't turn Muslim. Your dad turned to a terrorist.
Do you want us to edit this out later? Or should just keep going.
Just keep
Sorry.
No.
keep it going.
I'm telling the truth, but yeah, that's how my mom made it seem like, oh, like yeah, your dad's not. Then it turned to a religion. He turned to like a type of like different like
Like cult or something.
Yeah, and I'm just all like, I don't think so. He still acts normal, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's crazy navigating that as a son,
Especially the child at a young age,
especially
yeah, man.
going through a divorce, and it's crazy because I see that with my kids, and just seeing different narratives flying through between parents and stuff. It's rough on the kids,
Yeah, of course.
And that's why Larry's here to sort it all out for you guys, so you guys don't have a messy divorce.
Yeah.
We tried. It still happened anyway, unfortunately.
No, but I mean, the experience that it helps to have, in a sense, that experience which helps you catapult why that service is needed in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And everything happens for a reason. I mean, how people go through those types of experiences, but when we go this is something I'm pretty sure all of you guys thought about. When you go through something, you always want to come out not just kind of getting out of it, but how am I going to be proactive about that situation that happened, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing, is that not only did you go through a divorce, but also how do we have people that are going through the same process have it more of a smoother transition? When Allah in the Quran, when He tells us, even look, the level of akhlaq you have to have even during divorce. Oh, tasrihun bi ihsan, right? If you're not able to be married, you could divorce, but letting go has to be with ihsan also.
Yes.
Because the letting go part is what can become very vicious.
Yeah, and Imam Nadim says this every time we have a session. He makes this point because unfortunately there was one case that we're having, and we're still, believe it or not,
Wait, who's Imam Nadim?
I said it earlier, not Imam Nadim Bashir.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yes,
right.
yes.
I'm sorry, I was fixing his. I thought
you were going to say another name. Your thing. I thought you were going to do your thing.
No.
Okay, sorry. My bad. Go ahead, bro.
No, so Imam. So during our sessions, we Imam Nadim quotes this verse from the Quran often about going away on amicably, making peace with ihsan. So, speaking of that, on a case that we're dealing with, it's almost been, subhanAllah, almost a year now, and we still haven't finished wrapping it up yet. Is that we've already had 5 sessions on it, and now we're trying to finish the hula part of it. We got it taken care of legally. Now we're just trying to get the Islamic documentation finished. And so it's taken a little bit longer than we had hoped for, and we had actually, I said 5 sessions plus the hula part, and it's just, it was a long drag down, and unfortunately we see both, of course, when you go through a divorce, both parties have a stake in the blame. No one is completely one-sided, and one is blameless on that end, right? Both, like we say here, is like it takes 2 to tango, right? Marriage fails because there's something, both parties. Now, it can be a sliding scale. It could be 80-20, 50-50, 70-30. Somebody may have contributed more to the failure of the marriage than the other partner. But either way, the problem is that when people get through the part where they want to get divorced, is that they want to use it as a tool for revenge, right? They was like, going, all these years you've made me suffer, and now I'm going to get back to you, and I want to take everything you got. I mean, it gets to that point, and then you have to have these sessions where you tell them both to fear Allah, we got to get this done the right way. But then, because we don't live in an Islamic state, and we have to deal with in the confines of the legal parameters that we have to adhere to in this country, then we can't make them do anything. Unless they go for arbitration. Arbitration is a different animal. But mediation, we can try and get them to come together. But in the end, if the other person's like, well, no, I'm going to cut them off.
Yeah.
Then there's nothing you can do.
While you're saying all this, I really, mashallah, I'm pretty sure he sees this too. I'm pretty sure Julian sees this, is that getting exposed to this level of a service of which is so much Islam in it, but also helping people in this world, like it would be so amazing that if I was under the tutelage of somebody that was doing what you were doing at such a young age, like there's so much maturity and so much knowledge that's intertwined in the service. I think just in being in your shadow of this work, you know, mashallah, I know you're a humble person, you probably don't like to hear it like this, but I'm just thinking of somebody, putting myself in his shoes. And if I was 25 years old, I'm like, man, I would, being in the 40s that I am now, like, dude, I would do anything to know about all this information in my 20s. Right? There's so much learning that's involved, and just by and Allah puts people in so many. It is something that, Julian, you're going to see now, inshallah, is after accepting Islam, and you know that everything has a reason, everything has a purpose, and everything's from Allah, is that you're put in a position where somebody's doing a very unique service, and it's so much Islamic consciousness involved in it too. It's like a perfect time for someone to learn about Islam, but on a very practical level too.
Right.
Right. It's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing.
I love new converts because you could just mold them how you want, you know.
Make them do what you want.
By the way, this is your first sim experience. By the way,
I saw the interviews.
Okay, good. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
I
good.
knew it was coming.
So first we're gonna warm you up with some Sayyid Qutb books. You know?
Oh no!
And then
Oh no.
Let's not forget the Muhammad al-Wahhab books, okay?
Yes, sir.
and then get you into the hardcore stuff later on.
Inshallah.
It's like kind of segueing in from the Beatles into like rock and roll.
No, more like to more hardcore stuff like
Yeah, like Metallica.
Obituary.
Or is it, the Obituary. Yeah. That's full on ISIS. That's
Speaking of terrorism, that's what she meant.
Oh my God, it's phenomenal.
but on the real, like, what are you? What kind of books are you reading? Like, how are you trying to? There's like a flavor in Islam. I'm sure you picked it up from your dad. Like, it's like a undefinable quality that Islam and Muslims have with how they approach religion that you don't see with other religions. What have you or what?
Like, what's keeping you busy, basically?
Yeah.
It's far on a religious level, basically. And sorry to put you on the spot.
It's
inspiring. For other
it's
people,
really
too.
just. It's
he's
honestly
okay with the shit.
Yeah, honestly, what keeps me busy is trying to like navigate like my day, because I have 3 sons and they're all under the age of 4.
Wow. You got
SubhanAllah.
a baby face, man.
Yeah.
I pegged you for like 18.
Oh,
Wait, or maybe you could be having 3 kids at 18.
Oh, I could, but that's not the case. But no, I was just like really like praying and like trying to like put in the effort of being Muslim, around my kids and around my my fiance and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, and it actually helps a lot. Like, if you're just a basic, good, upright person, which I'm pretty sure you surpass that. Like, the biggest stimulus you can have to do good is having children.
Yeah.
Right? Like, nobody really likes to work. I'll give this example to my kids too. I was like, look, in reality, nobody loves working, like going to work and and sometimes you have to do things that you don't like for work. And some people really do. There's very few people that love their work. There's very few people. But generally people are like, oh, it's the weekend, I can't wait, right?
Yeah.
But when you have kids, it's the
work never stops.
No, work never stops, but you don't even think twice. You're like, dude, I got to do this for my kids.
Oh no, yeah.
And the same thing's for Islam, bro. It's like, dude, I got to do this for my kids.
Yeah.
Right? And I got to catch up quick. But so may Allah make everything easy for you, man. That's amazing.
How's your fiance taking it?
She's accepting. She's real accepting.
Yeah.
And same with her family too. Yeah. I mean, they think of it like it's not in their culture, so they're like a little weirded off by it. But
naturally.
I try to tell her like about what I believe in and like what's the difference, because my fiance's family, she's all Jehovah's Witness.
Okay. That's
heavy Jehovah's Witness. So it's like, yeah, that's all she's known. So it's like me trying to tell her.
He
She's
got
like,
thrown in the middle.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I'm just all like, we could argue about it. What to?
Well,
yeah.
Jehovah's Witness, they don't recognize that Christ died on the cross, did they?
No.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they don't recognize that he's the Son of God, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But they still.
No, they recognize that he's the Son of God. At least that's what they tell me, that they believe he's the Son of God.
There's some like a similarity with Islam that they have. I can't remember.
I mean, I'd have to ask my wife and my mother-in-law, because they come from that kind of background.
Okay.
Hispanic Jehovah's Witness
Yeah.
background.
So
Got
because my mother-in-law, she accepted Islam about over 10 years ago, and she was about to be baptized Jehovah's Witness, and that's when I kind of segue into that when we were talking about that in the last episode when she became Muslim, is that my wife told her, Madre, I don't want you to go to hell. Let's talk about this before you take such a step and become baptized Jehovah's Witness. And so, alhamdulillah, she accepted Islam. I mean, and to not take away from Julian's thunder here, but something that I wish I had mentioned before, and I wish Mort was here to hear this, to be honest with you, but I'm sure he'll follow up on this episode, is that when she wasn't sure, my mother-in-law, when she wasn't sure about whether or not she was going to take her shahada, my wife told her to sleep on it. The next day she woke up and told my wife and said, I had a dream last night, and there was a man that came to me, and he was wearing all white, and he had shoulder-length hair, kind of wavy, and he extended my hand, and he said, come with me.
Allahu Akbar.
And my wife said that was the Prophet ﷺ that came to you.
Wow.
And said she said her, after that she had said her shahada. No, I'm not saying if I'm dictating the dream correctly, but this is what was conveyed to me. So that's pretty much in a nutshell, is that the Prophet ﷺ appeared to her in a dream. That was the nail in the coffin for her, and she accepted Islam that next day.
Subhanallah. Wow. And the challenge that you have, a lot of people that you see that are born into Islam, nobody is put in a situation, and the reason I'm telling you, the situation that you're in, it may be a little daunting, but at the same time, the honor of it is very high. You're in the middle of a family of relatives, extended relatives, who are all very devout in their religion.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like their daughter, they never imagined that their daughter would be married to a Muslim or somebody who would convert to Islam, right?
for sure. Yeah.
So your challenge, even though it may be a little more grand, there's going to be more grandeur in it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I mean by there's no such thing as a coincidence, and Allah puts us all in places. Like your mother-in-law, who, how many Muslims do dua every night before they go to sleep so they can see Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in their dream, and then somebody just contemplating Islam, and at least, let's just say, for example, let's just say it wasn't even Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for instance. Even if it wasn't, who sleeps on it and has somebody have a dream, and that dream gives them guidance to come into Islam?
Confirms for them.
Based on the hadith of Rasulullah also, the closest thing to wahi, closest thing to revelation after the death of the prophets is a good dream.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's what we refer to as inspiration or ilham. That's from Allah. And that person, so many people would love to have guidance in their dream like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing thing. So the reward is it's accordingly too, is that you make a certain sacrifice, but you see things. You're going to see things that people who are born Muslim may not be able to see because of the sacrifice that you made. You know what I'm saying? So it's a beautiful thing, man. MashaAllah.
Larry, what are your thoughts on the whole Israel-Palestine thing? Do you, at least
we jump right into the politics, don't we?
Well, you guys, was that or dead silence? Sheikh wasn't coming through, so he said, "Here's the hot potato." I'm like, "All right." Because look, Larry has, for the people who haven't seen the previous episode, Larry has a lot of. Sorry, I'll keep calling you Larry. Younus has a military background. He's from the Navy, and I was curious to see what is in Larry's or Younus's mind when he's seeing at least the Houthis attacking some of the ships that are, or the vessels that are traveling to Israel, and what kind of strategies that the United States might be taking to protect these vessels through the Strait of...
what's the Red Sea? It's not the Straits of Hormuz.
No, it's not. It's the Strait of Bab al-Mandab? Mandab?
I'm not sure.
Mandab.
I'm trying to figure out, what do the Houthis have to do with any of this? Why are we messing with the Houthis at this point?
Why are they?
The Houthis are actually messing with them. I saw and I maybe tell me if I'm saying this correctly, Sam. The reason why they've gotten so much popularity is the majority of the world has been waiting for the Muslim world in its power and its entities to do something in order to either ceasefire, say something, and send maybe some type of military threat, and make at least a threat that, as on a military level, military to military. And the Houthis happen to be like, you know what, all these other countries can bring in all their goods, but Israel's not allowed. right?
So they're
Which
blocking
damaged.
So they're blocking
Yes,
off trade.
yes.
Okay, so then that makes more sense.
But they're
then.
attacking the what? How many vessels were?
So they said they're only going to attack the Israeli vessels, and that's what they've targeted so far. They haven't attacked any other vessels that are going to the Red Sea and through through Egypt. But the United States said, so basically, if you see a map, you'll see that the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb is like, I think, 20 miles wide. It's it's in the territorial waters of Yemen.
Yeah.
They should be extracting attacks from those waters, but they're weak, so nobody pays them anything. And they're going into the Suez from there, But if, for those who don't know, if you're transporting goods, if it wasn't for the Suez Canal, you'd have to go all around Africa, and you would have to pay a lot in taxes and, sorry, not taxes, but in fuel for that long
Just
journey.
maintenance costs and stuff too. Yeah.
So, what is it, in the 1920s or maybe, no, in the 1950s, I think the Suez Canal was completed. So that's when it was handed over from the British to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians nationalized it under Gamal Abdel Nasser.
By force.
That was a pretty ballsy move by Gamal Abdel Nasser to pull that off, but he managed to take it away from the British, because the British actually invested in it, and they had investors.
Yeah, they wanted money, but they wanted their money back and to make a profit from it, of course.
So, how, like, apparently there was like a huge coalition of forces that had joined the United States. I think 10 countries now. France, Spain, and I think even Australia pulled out. France, Spain, Italy, and Australia is kind of on the fence, I think. These countries have pulled out from this Operation Protective Operation. What was it?
I think Protective Edge you're thinking about is something
no,
else.
Protective Edge.
Yeah.
No, it's the Prosperity something. Anyway, so these vessels are supposed to be protecting ships that are going to Israel. At least from Navy strategies or whatever you learned in while you were in the Navy, how would they go about doing that? Because they're saying that it's really difficult for just the United States alone to do it.
Well, the other countries are participating, or they're not participating?
They are participating.
Okay.
Apparently, they got small countries as well, like the Seychelles involved.
The who?
The Seychelles, it's like a group of islands in the Pacific.
The U.S. will, I swear, will go to find anybody. We did the same thing in Iraq. We go to these no-name countries so we can build a coalition with them. They're like, going, who? Who are these people? It's like we're so desperate to build a coalition with anybody. We'll just take on anybody. Good.
By the way, it's Operation Prosperity Garden.
Prosperity Garden.
Well, obviously they want to make America's trying to send a signal or a sign that you can't mess with Israel. You're gonna feel the U.S. wrath if you're gonna attack their vessels or any ships that are willing to trade with or go through there to get to Israel. You're gonna.
Because by extension, it's American vessels in its own way.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just the bed buddies that the United States decides to align themselves with.
Yeah, no, it is a general question though. What's your thoughts on the Palestine-Israel issue? But somebody who used to be military personnel and has that experience, where do you see this going? What do you based on everything that you've seen?
Because the Houthis are using these drones. Okay,
so that's a crazy part too.
So these are like $2,000 drones that are coming up to these vessels and attacking them, like dropping a bomb or something on them.
Oh, really?
So, all these companies that typically travel or are responsible for cargo refuse to do it because it's just the insurance is just too much now, because all this cargo is insured, and the insurance rates have skyrocketed because you have to insure this cargo, and there's it's just not worth it for them to go through that route anymore.
Well, the whole point is the Houthis, at least, is to choke off any naval trade through that route to Israel.
Yeah.
Because no one else is willing to do anything. The Arab countries are just all talking, not doing anything.
Yeah.
If they're talking at all. So, I mean, as far as the Navy, it's to the U.S. Navy is to pose a presence, and if they can get as many people or other countries to come in, then the stronger the force is. It's a show of force. That's usually always the deal. Don't mess with you. You gonna mess around, you get the bull kind of thing. So I haven't been following politics or the news in quite a while. So has the U.S. retaliated against? Has the U.S. do anything to the Houthis in regards to this? Have they sent over cruise missiles, sent over aircraft to start bombing the heck out of them? What have they done? Anything?
No, they haven't done that because the Saudi Arabia and Yemen have temporary or some sort of a truce that's happening, and they don't want to disturb. So Saudi Arabia's like, United States, you figure it out, and the rest of the Arab countries, they don't want to get involved with the war with Yemen again. So they pretty much pulled themselves out. Bahrain got involved, so Bahrain's helping the United States. I don't know what benefit.
Yeah,
Do they provide? I don't think they even have a naval vessel.
I don't know. The Fifth Fleet. I know why Bahrain's involved because the Fifth Fleet is stationed there. So we have a huge naval presence in Bahrain. That's why Bahrain's involved.
Tell us more about this Fifth Fleet. How many?
Well, I mean, there's I don't know how many ships, but I know that it's like the headquarters or the main base of operation for the Fifth Fleet. At least that's from my knowledge. I don't know if that's changed since then, but that makes sense then why Bahrain would be involved.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they serve a strategic point, and because they already allow naval vessels into their ports, and they're a center of, headquarters for a large naval fleet, then that would make sense why they'd be involved.
Oh, interesting. See, I knew you'd come through.
We,
if you didn't, we would Jonah you, as they say in the Navy.
You would what on me?
Jonah.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
You don't know? It's
Jonah?
This is the sailors. At least sailors in the past said, like, if a sailor, so their sailors are very superstitious, right? So in the past, they would have to like rub a horseshoe or something before they go on a ship, and if in case like they encountered a storm or something, they would go through all the passengers of the ship and say, like, who didn't rub the horseshoe. I'm just choosing horseshoe, but it could be anything. Yeah. And if someone admitted to it, they would say, "Let's Jonah him," meaning they throw him off. Like the prophet of Younus, how he got thrown off.
That's why I said Younus.
Jesus.
What? So his name's Younus too. That's why I said Jonah.
I was like, I don't know how to take this now.
This is beautiful.
Well, it's so funny because
he's so confused. You're in the Twilight Zone.
In his previous episode, he was talking about how he came up with his name Younus, and like it didn't click with me that he's a Navy guy who was having difficulty with Islam. Like he was on a ship, so he has this like affinity towards the name Younus.
Dope. Did you think about that?
He said I didn't even think about that.
The Younus.
Yeah, I thought about that before a long time ago.
And like towards the end of the episode, I'm like, it clicked at me. I'm like, oh wow, I'm so stupid. That's why he chose the name. But yeah,
it's deep, dude.
That's cool. For people who don't know, Jonah or Younus is the name of the prophet who had difficulty with his people and wanted to escape being a prophet, and hopped on a ship, and he ended up getting swallowed by a whale. And hence the term Jonah. Jonah means like the sailors want to throw the guy off the ship, the unlucky person.
The traitor overboard.
Overboard.
You didn't rub the horseshoe, bro.
Yeah, no, look, man, even like you mentioned that there's a lot of people who would love not to follow politics. And I now that it's like it's such a weird situation to be in, because after these almost 3 months of what happened in Palestine and Gaza, a lot of the information that comes out is just solidifying what you believed and what you understood. Mm-hmm. But there's so much more that's involved in it. And a lot of times, because whether people are busy or whatever the case is, it does take a very interesting toll on people. And sometimes it's just, I know some people that aren't following this. Everyone's forced to kind of know about it, but they're like, dude, I don't know who to trust. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to believe. You know what I'm saying? And there's so much propaganda out there. But based on what you've understood so far of what happened, again, somebody who's been in military personnel, where do you see that where do you see that this is going? Do you think Israel is claiming that it's only a few more months? Is going to add a few more months? Do you think it's going to go that much longer?
No, I think it's going to go longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I just think that we're the ramifications of this are on such a bigger scale than just having just being a Gaza issue. It's going to be anybody who you don't support Israel, then we're going to come after you, kind of thing. That's my opinion. I'm not a political strategist or a military strategist. So, but I mean, getting these people involved in going after people or going after countries, getting more countries involved, and going after countries who are not aligned with your way of thinking. If you're not going to support, our baby brother over here, then we're just going to start hammering you. So it's I don't think it's going to go anywhere good. But time will tell. Allahu Alam. We'll have to wait and see.
Right.
They've said it outright now. Netanyahu's basically saying that the plan is to enact a voluntary migration plan, so that these certain specific countries are absorbing the Palestinians into their populations.
Interesting.
So what that is essentially code for is basically they're going to make their life so miserable in Gaza that you have no option but to leave. Either you starve and they make your life incredibly miserable, or you leave. And
my question is, how are they going to leave? They won't let them leave.
I think that's the plan, though. I think they're going to make some kind of, how when you get out, when you leave the airport terminals, you can't go back in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think they're just going to be a one-way exit.
Yeah, kind of.
They're just going to say, you can't come back in now. You stepped out. You crossed this line. You can't come back in.
I think it's going to be Palestine as a whole, not just Gaza. Because
the West Bank too is not getting worked on.
The West Bank's exactly. They're getting hammered. The media is not covering it as much as Gaza, but that's what's happening. I mean, my wife had to tell me that they pulled down Yasser Arafat's mausoleum.
Wow.
I mean, so they're and of course bombing of Jenin and these other places in Palestine, and I just think I think that Gaza was just an excuse for them just to obliterate them completely. This is our chance.
Mm.
How are you navigating this, Julian, as someone who just became Muslim, and you're hearing everyone talk about Israel, Palestine, and you most likely.
I'm not into politics like that, but the videos I have seen, it looks all like Israel's just killing citizens. I see the news and they're like, oh, Israel's trying to stop Hamas. Look at the tunnel Hamas has. And then I look on my feed on Instagram and it's nothing but kids getting blown up. So it's like you can see like the lies like kind of in front of your face. So you know what I'm saying?
It's mind blowing, because I'm even seeing like really good journalists who are grilling Israeli commentators and stuff, or people who are pro-Israel, and you see how they operate. It's like they machine gun you with lies, so you can't really respond to one thing. There's just so much garbage that they just spew at you. You don't even know, like, wait, what should I talk about? Because they're like one of the good ones out there is Bree from The Hill. I don't know if you ever seen really good black girl. She's pouring her heart out. It really blows my mind how hard she's working and to create awareness. And she was like grilling this Israeli woman who was I can't remember her name, but she was like she was going after her, and the lady, she was a pro herself. She was just like, well, we offered them a state, and we offered this and that, and just all crap. All the stuff that Norman Finkelstein's had already completely debunked. And you could even tell, like, Breeze was like, okay, well, where do I even start? With all the crap you said.
That's the thing. That's what you mean by machine gunning. Yeah. Because, bro, dude, human beings, number one, if you believe that something's wrong, it's an outright lie, and it's an obvious lie, and you're convinced of it. But then you're machine gunned with all of those. Let's just say machine gun from now. It's very relevant. It's so difficult, and it gets you so angry when somebody knows that they're lying. The whole world knows that they're lying, but they're willing to come on national TV and give you like 20 lies. And in your mind, you're like, dude, which one do I attack first?
Yeah.
Which one do I solve first? How is this person still spewing these lies when they've already been debunked? There's so many things that are happening, and that's why I have so much respect for people that can be patient in those interviews.
Yeah.
Bro, I don't know what I do if someone is spewing those lies, especially somebody who's like an IDF soldier or an IDF soldier's father. Like, I don't know how I can keep my hands to myself, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's you gotta have a different breed of human beings. That's why I respect those people a lot. When they don't do good in their interviews, dude, I get it, because I would be so enraged. I was like, bro, it just takes one of those lies to piss me off. Bro. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta be stone cold.
Yeah, bro.
You gotta be cold.
You gotta be able to separate all of that. But that's exactly what they did. And remember what Shaz said last time, and it was really cool. I started researching this. Is a method.
The Hasbara method?
Huh? No, Shaz was talking about the lies. The method that's used. This is not only Israel. This is like something that has been documented of. In order to debunk a lie goes out and it spreads, and then by the time people start trying to debunk it, it's already too late, and it's only a small faction of people that can get clarity on it. But then you're shooting out multiple lies with multiple pseudo evidences. So if you have 5 lies out, by the time those 5 spread, you've kind of got started on debunking the second one, right?
Yeah.
Because now it's spread too far now. And by the time you get to all 5 of those, a big portion of the world, whether they're half or a fourth, it doesn't matter. Those people that are already pro are already convinced. Mm-hmm. And they can convince more people with that evidence until new evidence comes out to counter those old evidences that were false anyway. Mm-hmm. And that's what corruption on this world is. I mean, it's very elementary, but that's why honesty is so important.
Yeah, well,
You know what I'm saying?
Their intelligence services motto is by way of deception.
Yeah.
I think it's like by way of deception, we will defeat our enemies or something like that.
So Victor, what's his name? The author who wrote the book By Way of Deception?
No, that's the author. This is the Mossad's mottos.
Yeah, but his book was named off of the motto, right?
Well, yeah.
What was his name? Victor what?
Victor Ostrovsky.
Ostrovsky, yes. Great book, by the way. And it is, and they fully embrace it. And that's why we know, like, Muslims have been talking about this for the longest time. It's kind of a breath of fresh air to Muslims because now everyone's seeing the truth, right? But now it's like there's so many people convinced, so many people of influence that have this platform. But Israel has been losing from the first month, has been losing the publicity war on this, and they're going to continue losing, and they're getting wasted on the ground too. They're getting demolished on the ground.
Yeah, Hamas. It looks like Hamas is becoming a more formidable force. Than,
but that's the interesting thing too. It's not, people believe it's a war between Hamas and Israel. There's many factions that are working, plus Palestinian citizens, and a lot of them don't even care who's Hamas and who's not. There's so many different factions, but the Palestinian people, who are not nearly as armed as the most armed and most strategically influential and powerful force in the Middle East, is a small place of Gaza on the ground, is giving them a very, very difficult situation right now. Right? The statistics are even going up now as far as how many are hospitalized, how many Israeli soldiers are hospitalized, and how many casualties there are. They're only reporting, I think, 10% of the casualties. And it's a crazy situation. And I don't know. It almost seems like it's been too late now because so many people have died. It's so sad to say that, but where is this going though? Well, in the sense of Muslims on a Muslim large scale level, but what's next? What's happening?
Well, I think Muslims are. I did a poll on Twitter, and I asked people like what their thoughts are if a Israeli missile destroyed Masjid al-Aqsa. How would Muslim countries respond? An overwhelming majority, I would say, almost 80 to 85% of people said that nothing, Muslim countries would do nothing. So we know public faith, Muslim faith in these governments, these puppets all across the world who are served in the interests of the West or just their own interests, have no interest in Islam. They're in the business of lining their pockets, and the public has lost faith in them. That's
a great poll to take to assess that, bro.
Yeah, and these guys, they think that they're pulling the wool over people's eyes, but people are losing faith in them or have completely lost faith in them and altogether, if not already. We're seeing Mohammed bin Salman exposed for the criminal he is by doing these concerts and stuff in Saudi Arabia. When people are literally on the eve of the invasion, or actually the invasion had already started, the bombing campaign, but he put a stop on all these events when the Kuwaiti king passed away recently. So for the Palestinians, he wouldn't stop any of these events like Shakira coming in and stuff. But for the king of Kuwait passing away, he ended all events as a day of mourning. But so the thinking is so off. Like, they don't care about Islam. Like, these governments, that's one thing. Like, many people who are like not Muslim, I'm always like trying to explain to them, like, hey, whatever these governments are, they're not a representation of Islam and Muslims. You never have. And one of the things that it really upsets me whenever we see Muslims on Piers Morgan or any kind of talk show, they get defensive about it. Like, why are you defending these governments? Why you shouldn't have this. Like, they're not representative of Islam. Just say, like, they're not Muslims. They're more in line with your interests than mine. You know?
Yeah.
Like, why are you, like, getting hesitant? And, like, they'll say, like, oh, we implement the Sharia. They implement it with the parts that they want. The surface, what's it called? The wrapping.
Yeah.
You know, but they won't give the meat.
Yeah.
They won't give the real justice that the Sharia provides. So it's so difficult, at least for even new Muslims like Julian, when they're navigating this political climate. Like, oh, well, I always wonder, I'm like, wait, you guys talk about brotherhood and stuff, and these countries aren't stepping up. No one's stepping up to the plate. And when you see, like, all these people dying, tens of thousands of children dying, and no one wants to do anything.
Yeah.
And the little Houthi rebels with their ragtag army are stepping up to the plate, just embarrassing everyone. It just says a lot, you know?
Yeah, and the good thing is, especially about this younger generation, man, they understand. I think go to two extremes, but they understand people just all over the world and authority right now, how corrupt authority actually is, you know? And I think there is a benefit to the left, and you have to be very careful navigating it, is being anti-authority to a certain degree, because it comes with talking about the corruption of certain governments and all that, and it should kind of stop over there. Because we do respect authority, and authority on all levels of human life, right? Yeah. Whether it's my father, whether it's me being in my home, the mother and the father having authority, but different levels of and different types of authority. When you're traveling in a jama'ah, even then we have an authority. We have, like, when we're traveling in a group, it's Sunnah of Rasulullah to elect an amir, to elect somebody who's responsible for everybody, and a leader while you're traveling, even if it's a small travel, But authority is all over. It's in almost every facet of our deen. Even in our prayer was the imam and all that kind of stuff, right? But everybody knows now, but on a political level, especially this younger generation, they know how good people are as far as citizens are concerned, but how the establishments are very, very corrupt. So I think for this generation, it makes it a little easier for them to understand that, to explain, because they're in this conundrum now with the United States of America and being complete anti-authority to a big degree. So I think it's easier for this generation than it was for people in our generation. But they have different challenges too, this younger generation of people that are fighting through all of these different ideologies. It's a very difficult thing to navigate through, because it forms your brain, and it forms all these MOs that you have of everything in life. But he's got, mashallah, a very good father and father figure, mashallah, to navigate all of this. And he can have some weirdos in Chicago if he ever wants to come by and watch some UFC fights with us. He's got some weirdos. He's got some weirdos to chill with too that are double his age.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, man. Younus, we got dinner coming in. So let's wrap this puppy up. Do you guys have anything closing? Just talk
Anything
about?
that you didn't get a chance to add about the booth? I'm still super interested in this.
No, just come by.
L17, you said, right?
L17. I encourage everybody who's in the Chicago area and those who are not, and they were coming in for the mass ICNA convention, to please come by. Take a brochure, take a postcard, scan our QR code, and get on our mailing list and find out more about what we do. And inshallah, maybe you can definitely pass the word on. Inshallah, maybe we can try and help as many people as we can, and whatever they're facing. Inshallah.
Right. Younus, you talk about for people who are just considering divorce, like not necessarily going through it. Are they like
people are considered? Yeah, you'd be surprised.
No,
Let's
just like, hey, like you. I just want to pick your brain, Younus. Like,
Sure.
I'm not sure if I want to go through this. At the end of the day, like, it's all about my bottom line, and how much I have to spend. Like, like these kind of questions. Like, are you able to like walk through every
Yes.
step? Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
Wow.
yep.
So, Chef,
There's
what's so funny?
There's been some cases. No, let me tell you. There's been some cases that we've had where they've come to us asking for a divorce, and as we're going through the process and picking their brains, like going, "Look, I don't think you're at that stage. I don't think divorce is the right situation here. I think y'all just need to work on some issues, and we'll come up with a plan for them, and then we'll tell and encourage them to go to marital counseling and these kinds of things too." And so sometimes,
Has anyone ever been like, this is just too expensive, Younus, so I can't do it. I can't afford this. We're just gonna have to stick with each other.
then
It's financially
As soon as you said the
impossible.
bottom line thing, I was like, oh my God.
Or
Yeah, but I know where you're going. I know
It's
what you're
interesting.
saying.
I've had a couple of referrals from, what happens sometimes. Not everything turns into a case. You just have people that are acquiring. They want to. We want to do this. We want to do that. And the minute you bring up money, they're like going, no, thank you. They're like, well, then you don't really need us, do you?
Mm.
We'll see you on. We'll see you later.
Yeah,
You're gonna come back and either regret not coming to us, or you wish you had done it sooner. I mean, it happens. I don't know why. It's look. Yeah, at this time, this is my bread and butter, right? This is my full-time job, so I'm doing the hustle literally. So you have to pay for people's services. Not everything is fi sabilillah.
Yeah.
That doesn't. We don't work like that. We didn't we didn't work like that when the Ummah was on top. When we had the Khalif and all that kind of stuff, people paid for services. I'm not here because you're my Muslim brother and sister to do it for free.
Yeah.
But I'm going to save you a lot of money.
Yeah, but what about even the person paying? What about they have to think? What about fi sabilillah for this brother though? You know what I'm saying?
Well, there may be some instances, and there's been very, 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 very few. Well, somebody's.
No, but you know what I mean by
do
fi
it.
sabilillah, right? Like someone could say, "Hey, brother, do this. It's fi sabilillah," and when they say that to me, it depends what the situation is. But when they use that, when certain things don't line up when they're asking you to do something, and they're asking for a lot, and they say do fi sabilillah, and it's going to be and you're obviously going to have to spend money out of your pocket. I'm just giving my own example. My response is, what about fi sabilillah for my family though? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, what about my family? What about-
I gotta do fi sabilillah for them day and night, bro? Like,
Exactly.
well, you're just telling me fi sabilillah while they're getting shafted, bro.
Exactly.
So.
Someone's getting hurt. I mean,
Yeah.
what about the roof I have to provide?
Yeah, so the
food I
fact that
have to
they're giving
provide,
you
so
money for your services, they're doing something fi sabilillah, and just because you're taking money doesn't mean you're not doing a fi sabilillah, because you're finding them an out to refrain from haram.
Yeah.
Not
So
just haram, and he's saving their money. One of my friends, he was
Bottom
telling
line,
me,
bottom line.
like him and his ex-wife, they're just going through point by point, like every single item they're fighting about on their divorce, and they're not realizing like the amount of money they're accruing from their attorneys,
Oh my
because
god.
they're not on speaking terms. They're not solving anything through each other, so they're going through an attorney who's racking up both of their bills
Yeah,
sky high.
They won't know how much they spend until the attorney's like, "When I need you to refill the retainer." Wow. We need another 10 grand. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is like going, and if you don't, we're not going to work on your case. I mean, that's how the attorneys are.
What a game! It's such a delusional game.
It's a
man.
game, 100% game.
Making list of items to save money while the retainer is being
They're
exhausted.
fighting over every item in the house that they're supposed
So,
each person.
do you guys see? Don't you see how satanic that is? Like in
Yeah.
a way, that's why Iblis gets so happy when
Marriage
there's a
is
dispute.
yeah. Look what it does. As again, like I said earlier,
That's literally the hands of Iblis just like making you make that list. Oh, it's so superficial, bro. What are you gonna do if you die tomorrow? What are you gonna do with all that stuff?
nothing. It's going to go to somebody else.
It is.
It's
People are
gonna
not even care about you. You're gonna be fighting over your property.
It's going to be somebody else's house,
Yeah.
right? It's not going to be. And don't think it's going to go to your kids. It can be somebody's going to buy the house.
satanic, bro.
It's not your house anymore.
Allah
What do you
protect
do?
us, man.
We get too caught up in what's mine.
Yeah, bro.
and not about doing things the right way. And I'm going to be honest with you, and Sheikh, maybe you can elaborate on this, is that it's not been widespread, but there are a couple of instances where sisters are actually reluctant to come to us because they feel that Islam is going to not give them their just right. And I'm like going, whoa, careful. You're saying that Allah is not just and that the Prophet ﷺ is not just. You're saying that you're going to get a bad hand from going the Islamic route than going, because you feel that you're going to get more going the civil route.
No, I know what you're saying, and it depends what we give value and what we consider value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we in our world, meaning every individual allowed in the world to give value to, like what's considered value. Is money actually considered value? Yeah, if it can help you do things, yeah, it can allow you options. But true value isn't value of actual wealth, right? That's not actually true value. The truest of value, as Rasulullah said, the best richness is the richness of the heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, that may seem oversimplistic. And the reason why I'm saying all of this is that they can be comparing what the court may be allowing or allotting them in the end of this deal, of this divorce, and what Islam is going to be giving them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they may be looking at that as value. Well, she's going to get half of this, of everything that they possessed,
Yeah.
right? And in this situation, I'm not even getting a fourth, right? But that what that comes back to is what they've given value. And that's why the understanding of love of Allah and His Rasul are so important, is that love is supposed to override all other values. So what Allah gives you as valuable is considered valuable, right? And at the end, the most important value is you just getting through this world and getting the akhirah. If you get all of the value of this world you got in this world,
that's all
and you
you're
have
getting.
no value in the akhirah, what's valuable then? Nothing's valuable, right? You know, we've completely misunderstood. So I think it depends on who's asking it. Is it a practicing sister? Is it somebody who's not really practicing, but the husband wants to go through with this Islamically? Whatever the case is, I think every individual is different, but it depends on who's asking this. If it's somebody who's very well learned in Islam, and a sister is saying that, and in the back of her mind she knows what's actually right and wrong, she just feels like she's getting like the short end of the stick, that's more of a personal human thing that person needs to work on, and someone needs to talk to that person. But if somebody who doesn't know anything about Islam and is saying that, then it's understandable too, right? Of why they're saying that.
I mean, I've had there was one case that it started out as a divorce, another one that started out as a divorce, and then it turned into saving their marriage, really. And came to the point where she's like came from her mouth after the Sheikh, Imam Nadim, was like going, you are not afforded that, that's not Islamic. She's like going, I don't care. I just stared at him, and I stared at her, and I was like going, I can't believe what just came out of her mouth. We're telling her what Islam dictates here, and she's like telling us in our face, I don't care. I'm like, wow.
There's a lot of women like that, Larry.
Wow.
It's crazy.
I'm like, and I don't know how many times we've had to like actually excuse the husband or the soon-to-be ex-husband out of the room, and we had to look at it and go, fear Allah, have tawakkul on Allah. I mean, have taqwa of Allah, attaqillah, and and they're just not. I get flabbergasted. It's like they really just think that Islam is giving them the short end of the stick, and I really blame one thing. Unfortunately, is we believe that the Western system is better than the system that we have, because they're looking at it from a monetary perspective, but they're also not understanding that they don't really understanding the hukms that are actually in the Sharia, that the rights that they're afforded when they won't be getting they're not getting the short end of the stick. They're actually, you're going to be treated decently, and sometimes we actually have cases where it's the husband's like going, they think I don't have to give her anything. And we're like going, no, brother, that's not the case. You have to give her something. We have to, and I said there is a system of spousal maintenance within the Sharia itself.
Of course,
and we have to explain that to them. And again, it's about getting them to come to an agreement. I mean, for the most part, alhamdulillah, we haven't almost. I can't say that maybe 2 cases at the most we haven't been able to settle on, but the majority of our cases that we've reached a reasonable settlement between the parties and finished their divorce in a short amount of amicably.
Well, what's the number? At least do you find out the reason why they're divorcing, or
it's just most of the reasons is incompatibility. That's not what they thought or who they thought. People change, or and to be honest with you, I'm finding there's been a couple of marriages where the husband just blatantly lied coming into the marriage about his education, about his financial standing, and on and so on and so forth. And the wife is finding out, is like going, he lied to me. And sometimes we're going with this, and I was like, well, then we get into a narrow issue with what kind of divorce is this? Is this going to be a khula? Is this going to be a talaq al-darar? Is this going to be a fasakh? What are we dealing with here? So that's when we start asking our experts if we can't discern it on our own, because there's so many moving parts that we have to get an honest, how are we going to approach this case in this instance?
Yeah, no, there is. Look, honestly, nobody likes to be lied to. Dudes, for a lot of time, we're just pretty casual about things, like everything's going to be okay, because if we know that something's going to be okay. But a lot of that is true, though, and we have to be fair. A lot of dudes make up a lot of stuff before they get married.
Not only that, to be honest with you, Sheikh, some of these young couples, the husband is completely bereft of any maturity coming into the marriage, and he's been babied by his parents for so long, coddled by his parents, that he cannot make a decision. He cannot sneeze without his parents giving him permission. And he got into a marriage, and now we're having to facilitate their divorce.
I see.
And unfortunately, what I thought would be, this is a case that we had that I thought would be a closed book, would be done with it, that he's fighting. He almost came to this person, said that the talaq that he gave his wife, which was during the session, I wasn't involved in that session, said that it was forced. I'm like going, it wasn't forced. But anyways, we had a whole dynamic, and we still haven't been able to close the door on this case, because now
his parents are telling him.
Yes, exactly. Now the parents are involved.
Dang.
Because this guy lacks any type of maturity dealing with this whatsoever, that his parents have to tell him what to do.
What's the age demographic, like 25 to 30, 30 to
25 aroundish.
Yeah,
around the mid-20s.
Mid-20s.
It's ridiculous.
That's rough, bro.
And now, and I'm sure if Mort was here, he would be able to elaborate.
Mort was here, it'd be great.
Yeah, he would be able to, because I know how he would be able to elaborate and say this, because we're raising a bunch of wimps.
Yeah.
The men are not growing up to be men.
Yeah.
We've caught, especially unfortunately, with the immigrant population.
You're right.
They're not allowing to grow up. They coddle them, they shelter them, they don't want to be exposed, they don't allow them to become full grown men, and they're incapable of making their own decisions.
Yeah.
And then they get them married. And I'm like going, what is going on?
I mean, this is
here?
a whole different podcast, but parents need to know what their children are like, man. Like, we should. We can't be like, I kind of know what he's like, and he's getting married. No, I need to know everything, and he's got to know everything about me too, man. As a father, and I got to know everything about my son, or else we're not doing our utmost best to get them married off. Man.
I've noticed it starts with a weak father as well, at least with the men.
Allahu alam. I don't know these fathers, but I mean, and especially in this case, I don't know the issue with this the person, the father of this young man. Allahu alam. Oh. But I mean, it's obvious that he's not mature enough to make his own decisions and be a man and be a husband in that sense. And that's what the woman is wanting. Yes, she wants someone who's going to take control in that sense, and he's incapable of doing so. And I remember during the session that he was, because this is what was relayed to me and it was recorded and so on and so forth, is that he kept asking his soon-to-be ex-wife, almost begging her, what should we do, blah, blah, blah. He was incapable of making any kind of sound decision. She literally had to be she was literally the man in the relationship.
Wow.
And women don't want to be the men. They want a man. You know what I mean?
They used to want to. Now it's a little different.
Yeah. Now, so I mean, it's just the different the different variety of cases that we get in this regards, and I mean, we're divorcing a 60-year-old couple as well. So I mean, we see them all over the board.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's like that that one quote: "Hard times create strong men create good times." Good times create weak men, and then it's just like cyclical.
And
weak men create strong men.
No, weak men create hard times.
Oh, hard times and hard times
and
make
then it
strong
repeats.
men.
Yeah, and it repeats.
Yeah. What a crazy life we live in.
I'll make it easy.
I mean,
have it easy for us.
Well, Younus, it's time to eat.
Jazakallah khair for having me on again. It was a pleasure.
Julian too. Julian, it's time to eat.
Thank y'all. Time to eat. I'm hungry.
We're gonna let you pass on the Cowboys representation in Chicago, but it's all right.
I'm gonna show y'all. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
show,
yeah.
We'll let it go because you're a guest.
even though they're still not going to make it to the playoffs, brother.
Chef doesn't even watch sports.
I only watch UFC, bro. I'm just,
Oh, I was gonna say
Just trying to get
I was
bandwagon.
like the Bears ain't doing too good either.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody likes the Bears, even
Yeah.
Chicago.
Well, y'all got the
Y'all got the Bulls.
the
That's
Bulls and
true.
the Blackhawks. I mean, y'all got some.
Nah,
good
they're
teams up
terrible
there.
too. All right. All right, guys. We'll see y'all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair.
This is good.